Poster Goes to War. Pages 297 to 303.
During the First World War, posters were considered to be one of the most crucial forms of communication. This was because electronic forms of communication, like the radio, were generally not being utilized on a global scale during this period. Posters were used as a form of visual persuasion. It was meant to maintain popular support of the war efforts, and many of these designs were meant to create a sense of nationalism or patriotism. The advancements in warfare technology during the Great War required vast amounts of fundraising. The financing of airplanes, zeppelins, heavy artillery, and tanks was an essential part to the war efforts for the nations involved. One of the most effective ways for a nation to finance their war efforts was through the use of war loan campaigns and bonds. This was the beginning of posters being used as a form of propaganda. It either pushed the nation's agenda, the recruitment of men, or just the public support of a nation's war efforts. The poster designs made by the Central Powers, led by Germany and Austria-Hungary, carried on the tradition of the Vienna Secession art movement, closely related to Art Nouveau. This movement was formed in 1897 by a group of Austrian painters, graphic artists, sculptors, and architects. These types of posters displayed the simplicity of Plaketstil, also known as Sackplakat. This was an early style of post art that originated in Germany in the 1900s. It was started by Lucien Bernhard of Berlin in 1906. In Bernhard's 1915 poster for a war loan campaign, he relies heavily on a sharp militaristic feeling. A clenched medieval fist pierces from the top right corner and into the middle of the poster. This imagery is amplified by the Gothic text, which reads, "This is the way to peace, the enemy wills it so, thus subscribe to the war loan." Julius Klinger's war posters often express complex ideas through simple pictographic symbols, like this one, a poster designed for Germany's 8th bond drive. 8 arrows piercing a dragon helped remind the public that their gifts have helped wound the enemy. The integration of words and images to express complex ideas became a very beneficial form of communication during war efforts. The Allied approach to propaganda was much more illustrative and literal in comparison to the Central Powers. British posters primarily pushed the importance of protecting traditional values, the home, and the family. Savile Lumley's 1914 poster, "Daddy, What Did You Do in the Great War?" appeals directly to sentimentality and public patriotism. One of the most successful war posters was England's 1915 recruiting poster by Alfred Lee. The images of a popular lord named Horatio Kitchener, who was the British Secretary of War. The imagery shows Kitchener almost advancing out of the poster frame while pointing directly at the viewer. The caption on the poster reads, "Join your country's army. God save the king." It's hard not to feel a sense of nationalism in this visual call to arms. The United States entered the First World War on April 6, 1917, with the goal of making the world a safer democracy and the war to end all wars. American painter James Montgomery Flagg created the American version of Alfred Lee's call to arms image. His sketchy painting style was widely known at the time, and his imagery of himself as Uncle Sam and the phrase, "I want you," is still recognizable today. Joseph C. Leyendecker was one of the premier American illustrators of his time. His style idolized physical beauty, which can be seen in his 1917 poster depicting an all-American Boy Scout handing a sword to Lady Liberty. The sword is inscribed with, "Be prepared." This poster promoted patriotism across all levels of American society. Female illustrator Jessie Wilcox Smith used her illustrative style to emphasize on emotions. She created a poster that stated, "Have you a Red Cross service flag?" which would indicate the household support of the Red Cross. Even uncommon for the time, Smith would often sign her work, which included designs for Campbell's Soup, Eastman Kodak, and Ivory Soap. Wartime propaganda posters often honored soldiers, leaders, or symbolic figures, even at times ridiculing the opposition's ruler, as seen here in a satirical style poster by Paul Verez, which places Germany's Kaiser in canned goods. He sits next to the likes of peas and tomatoes. This was seldomly seen during this era of propaganda. Not only did technology change the course of warfare itself forever, the advancements in printing allowed for this form of mass media to take hold during this time. Many of these posters are much more than just a piece of art. They acknowledge the public's contributions, the sacrifices made by men and women during these difficult times, and encourage the unity and patriotism of nations around the world. I believe it is completely reasonable to think of posters as a form of ammunition during this time. It changed the course of the war and the course of the medium forever.